People generally know that they have to socialize their dogs as part of their dog's development and well being. But have you wondered why socializing really is so important? To us, we hear from our pet parents it's all about helping them get along with other people and other animals. But did you know socialization can apply to anything your dog can sense in their environment, even if they can't see it? When I discuss socialization, I describe it as being synonymous with desensitization. In fact, good socialization comes about when your dog has only appropriate reactions to whatever they see and hear. You can say that you're desensitizing your dog to mundane events, or at least normalizing what's happening in front of them. A dog that can present manners conforming to prep school standards is considered properly socialized. Dogs that are properly socialized are less likely to be a nuisance or even a danger to anyone. Now let's talk about socialization timelines. Pet parents generally know they should get in socialization early in their dog's life. When it comes to optimal socialization, you want to be able to hit between 7 and 13 weeks. It's an important time for pups because this is when their first fear imprint stage occurs. A fear imprint stage is when any event can influence a dog's general perception of life. When something goes well, they carry those feelings along in life. But if something really bad happens, that event can scar them for quite a while. It's common for our pet parents to train their dogs socially as soon as they get all their vaccines. For people who've had their puppies visit with other people and interact safely with other familiar animals, training in a group environment isn't so difficult. These dogs have had some practice in understanding what's considered normal with other people and their dogs. They've still gotten some form of socialization, which will continue when they take their classes. But for pups that have lived a more sheltered life during this crucial stage, they may react more strongly, good and bad, to whomever they meet. Still, by 16 weeks, all pups generally exit their first period of socialization. Whatever habits and thoughts about life they've accumulated up to then, it generally is harder to unravel. But just because their window has closed around 16 weeks, that shouldn't be the end of socialization. Your dog will go through a secondary fear imprint stage during their teenage and young adult years, usually between 6 and 14 months. I've seen some dogs do well during the first stage and then all of a sudden become extremely sensitive to things during their secondary stage. They can be over-aroused, distrustful, or fearful. This is why positive socialization and training still have to continue throughout their first year or two. By age 2, habits and characteristics lock in place by then. However, it's entirely possible for a dog to change their overall behavioral approach to something if an event is impactful or traumatizing enough to make a mark. Most people generally know they have to get their dogs out in the public, but if done incorrectly, it can hamper their efforts in creating a well-behaved dog. So we go by a set of rules we follow in socializing. First off, introduce your dog to a variety of situations, but revisit these situations repeatedly and frequently to make it count. Meanwhile, when it comes to these interactions, they should be done on your dog's terms. We never want to force our dogs into doing something here. Positive experiences are necessary to prevent any resistance to trying anything new and developing ill feelings from the experience. To make sure you know whether or not your dog is enjoying their time, keep an eye out for body language. Be sure you understand body language well so you know when to cut your trials short. You really just need to be able to identify discomfort in your dog. We'll have a list of behaviors available in a handout you'll receive in class, which leads to the final rule. If your dog shows significant discomfort, distance or remove your dog from the situation. When your dog experiences a highly negative event, you should refrain from retraining under those same conditions for at least 72 hours. That number is key. It's usually how long it takes for your dog's stress hormones to calm down. This is something not every pet parent is aware to do. When you start from a place of stress, if you go back into a contentious situation, it won't take as much time for your dog to begin reacting badly. You're stacking stress on stress, so you never give your dog a chance to relax and build a truly positive experience. For this class, we'll be going over a number of desensitization exercises. We'll spend the majority of the time on desensitizing your dog to visual elements. The next slide will provide you the QR code to what we do to achieve that. We'll also desensitize towards noises that your dog may find odd. And for at least one exercise, we'll work on tactile desensitization, or getting them used to new or strange sensations. Here's the QR code to the Look at That exercise, which we'll briefly get into during class. When you practice desensitizing your dog to things, you'll want to keep the following in mind. Be sure your dog is calm before you start. It's always good for both you and your dog to start with the right frame of mind to avoid premature hiccups in the process. Also, begin with minimal distraction when doing something for the first time. Every change in location is like throwing dozens of distractions at your dog, so you'll need to be very forgiving in how you train your dog in these situations. Now, if your dog is having a hard time staying calm in your practice runs, temporarily remove the distraction from your environment. Or, if it's difficult to remove that distraction, remove your dog from the area. This is a general rule for any time your dog loses focus. When your dog looks even a bit uncomfortable, you want to preserve any amount of positive or neutral vibe in the situation. Discomfort can come in the form of pulls at their leashes, barks, and/or jumps. You'll always be able to later reinsert the distraction or add other types of distractions once your dog has conquered working within their current environment. Be sure you're able to get eye contact when you practice. We advise this when you're in an area your dog can emotionally handle but still have issues leaving things alone. Again, if your dog looks extremely distracted or bothered in the practice environment, it's better to leave than to hang around and struggle with your dog. Finally, always end on a good note. Just like you want the beginning to set the tone, the end is just as important in this respect.